Now, I'm sure I speak for a lot of us when I say I want more power, like this. And this. And this. So in today's video, that is exactly what we are going to do. We've got some big injectors to fit that can indeed run up to 600 brake horsepower. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. And of course, if you guys haven't already, remember, hit subscribe so we can bring you more content like this to the channel. And of course, do remember, if you like this content, leave a comment, let me know how I can improve, and let me know what videos you guys want to see. We are indeed going to get this fuel pump reinstalled nice and easy in there. As you can see, I put the bolts back where they belong so we didn't lose them. I've cleaned the surfaces down with a bit of white spirit as well. It's time to get started on fitting this fuel pump. So there's two T30 bolts that hold it in, and it is pretty much as simple as that. One thing I will say is, if you guys are doing this job yourself, the fuel pump doesn't like to go in on its own. It does need some persuasion from the T30 bolts in order to slot into the place properly, and I think this is because the cam follower pushes up against the camshaft. So you do need a little bit of persuasion, but just trust the process. That, as you can see, there's one high pressure fuel pump on. I am currently ill right now, which isn't the greatest thing, but I went ahead and got the drive shafts back in. If you have seen my previous videos, then you will know that I didn't do that in the gearbox video, but I've gone ahead and done it now. So you join me in the shared shed. The first step is going to be getting this fuel rail back on to our intake manifold. It shouldn't be too hard. I remember one of these lines, I think it was this one, it was really hard to actually get off, just purely because of the way that the intake manifold is designed. But I'm going to do my best to record. As you can see, it's quite messy, so I'm going to try and set the camera up somewhere. Got everything I need to put the new injectors in. Sitting pretty over here, not that you can see them, but I've got an instruction booklet as well to tell you what to do. Now, I'm going to be honest, this fuel rail and putting it back onto the intake manifold was absolutely boggling my brain. I could not figure out where this went, and I even had to resort back to my old videos to figure out and see how this fuel rail actually seated onto this intake manifold. We got there in the end, as you guys will see any second now. That was probably one of the most fiddly jobs I think I've ever had to do. Well, that fuel line has to go through there, but this is in the way. They've got to line up. I did do it off camera, but now, as you can see, all the bolt holes are in fact lined up. And it's hot today as well. It's absolutely boiling, and I'm ill. So today's not my favourite day, but we're still getting it done. But now we can go ahead and reassemble the rest of it, get some of the bolts in that we need to, and then hopefully get the new injectors in. So let's go ahead and get on with that. Now we can go and finalise the job and finally get this fuel rail bolted to the intake manifold so that we can put the new injectors into the fuel rail. There's two bolts that hold the fuel rail to the intake manifold, and then there's one bolt on top for the solenoid. This is what they look like. A little bit of engine oil. So all I'm doing here is lubricating the injector seals so that when we push it into the fuel rail, it doesn't pinch and it goes in nice and smoothly. Okay, so we need 4 of these. There's one, and then it says 2. Push them back into the fuel rail. like so. And there's one complete.
Now that we've got the first one installed, we can go ahead and get the other 3 installed into the fuel rail. So I'm going to repeat the process 3 times, lubricating the O-ring and making sure that they seat nicely into the fuel rail. We also need to take the old injector seats, clamps, springs, don't know what you call them to be honest, but I'll put a picture on screen now. We need to put those onto the new injectors so that they sit nicely in the fuel rail. And this was just my brain being stupid and seeing if I could scratch off where the original numbers on the injectors were.
All 4 of the new fuel injectors installed, seated, got them listed 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I've done some digging and I'm just confused, to be honest. I've got all of these spacers installed, as you can see. I still need to put those clear discs into the head of the engine, which I think I'm going to go and do now. I have no idea what this injector compression tool is, to be completely honest. It says you need to put it over the stem of the injector and hold it for 30 seconds. But I've had a search and I just cannot find anything, to be honest. Maybe I wait for them to get back to me because I emailed them about the coding and which number I use. Because as you can see, all of the original numbers are hidden. So I've only got the serial number or the part number. Got them numbers there. So hopefully it's the serial number that I need. But I won't know until they get back to me. And it's currently Saturday, which means they're not going to be open until Monday. So I might have to wait a little bit. But I was looking at my old injectors. If anyone wants to buy these, by the way, they are dirty, but I can clean them up. They're just stock Volkswagen, Audi Group, Bosch injectors. Got 4 over here. I'll clean them up, and if you want to buy them, 100 quid, and they're yours.
So now we can go ahead and get the injector seats put back into the head of the engine, and these simply just push in and sit in place. I think all they're for is to help the injectors seat properly and not move from their position.
One of the next jobs on the list, one that I cannot forget, is we are going to refill this gearbox with oil, because I did indeed drain it, as I thought it would be a good idea. So without further ado, the idea is we fill it with that. It's going to take about 2.3 litres. Drain plug will be closed, and this is the fill plug, and when it slowly starts to come out of the fill plug, that's when we know that we are at a substantial level. I'm just going to make sure that is tightened. Yeah. Let's get this fill plug out.
It's now time to go ahead and start filling up the gearbox with the fresh gearbox oil. So I'm filling up the syringe with gearbox oil, and then I'm going ahead and putting it into the gearbox nice and slowly so we don't lose any fluid. Now that we've filled the gearbox with one whole syringe, we can go ahead and repeat the process 5 or 6 times until the gearbox oil starts coming out of the gearbox. However, I did soon realise this may not have been the smartest move, as the car is on axle stands, which does in fact mean that the car is leaning backward.
So I've just finished filling it up. I'm about to screw the drain plug in. I was really confused on why. So there's supposed to be 2.3 litres in there, and obviously I've done 2 litres there, and that's down to like 550, about 400 mil. There's about 2.6 litres in there. Then I realised the whole car is on axle stands. So it's probably all going to the back. So it might be a tiny bit overfilled, but only by about 200 mil, which shouldn't matter. But let me go ahead and get this drain plug put back in and tightened up.
Drain plug is back in, and now we can go ahead and start installing the intake manifold back onto the head of the engine. So all I'm doing right now is looking at all of the locations for the connectors so I can be sure to connect these up before I put the intake manifold on. And I do apologise for some of this clip. My dad wanted to see what was going on, which is perfectly fine. He's got great ideas. But with a little bit of fiddling and wiggling around, we managed to get the intake manifold on. However, if you guys have made it this far in the video and you guys remember the injector spacers from earlier on, the little black bits that go on the end of the injector, turns out we didn't need them, and I tried installing it with these on and it just did not want to go on. So I did in fact end up taking these off. Now, the intake manifold takes 9 bolts in total. There's 7 long ones, and then there's 2 10mm nuts that go onto some studs once the intake manifold is on. So let's get these installed, and then we can move on to connecting all the lines up, connecting all the connectors, and finalising the job. These are supposed to be torqued down to 9 Newton meters. However, use your brain a bit. It's plastic going into metal. They're metal screws. Just don't over tighten them.
As you guys can see, intake manifold is back on. Next, I need to get this fuel line connected because that's hanging over a little bit. So I'm going to loosen it from in there, and then get this side connected, then tighten them both up together. And then, hopefully, we've just got all the electrical connectors to put back up, and then I think the job's good and we're done. We're putting the intake manifold on anyway, and then we can get on with everything else.
So, as I mentioned previously, this fuel line is a bit of a wiggly job, and it's not always clear where you can get the spanner in to undo the banjo. But we managed to do it, and now we can go ahead and get all the connectors reconnected and all of the fittings back where they belong. And as you can see on this one, I am having to use a pretty basic tool to be able to do this. I could not find a tool or a T30 bit that would actually fit in this area where I was trying to do this bolt up. So it was quarter turns at a time, but we got there in the end. Now I'm just connecting all the vacuum lines up, using my hose clamp pliers to get the clips back on, reconnecting the fuel line, and then connecting the camshaft position sensor.
So, I've just found a split in this piece of vacuum tubing. However, I bought some ages ago. I might do it a little bit longer than it needs to be. There we go. Pull that off, hopefully.
Now, the reason that this was an issue is when the car was last on the road about 3 months ago, in the higher RPMs, there was a slight screeching sound which almost sounded like a boost leak.
That is a job well done. I knew that vacuum tubing would come in handy somewhere. There's 2 connectors down here. The brown one slots in, and then a blue one. Spot on. Right. I also think I'm gonna put the oil filter on now, just so I don't forget it.
So I installed the oil filter, simply just screwed it in with my hands. You do not want to over tighten these because I did that before and I regretted it straight away. But now I'm just getting the throttle body pipe on, reconnecting the map sensor and bolting it to the engine.
Now,
unfortunately, that does just about bring me to the end of this video. As always, if you have enjoyed, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next Sunday, 6 PM, for the next upload on the Audi A3. This is also the first time it's been on the ground in about 3 months. Big moment.